together. Pick up your pencils and do it with me. Take a second, hit pause if you need to, and draw a graph. Make your graph go out at least as far as 6s on all sides. Okay, so you have drawn the graph. Let's plot the points here. A is at -6, +4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then B is at +6, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right around there. And C is at -6, -1. So we go back this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -1. So this is the A, this was the B, and this was the C. So to connect it, make a triangle. And one of the first things you want to notice is that there's a right angle there. So this is a right triangle. That's going to help us when we're trying to figure out which numbers represent the base and the height. So first of all, let's count it. This one goes all the way across from A to B. It's the same distance. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It went 12 all the way across. And this one goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes 5 down. All right, we haven't really gone over the Pythagorean theorem yet, but if you remember it, you can use it. Otherwise, I'm going to do the distance formula, which we have already learned. The perimeter, I could try it, but there's a piece missing right here. So I'm going to add 5 plus 12 plus, I need to figure out what the third part is, and I'm going to use the distance formula to do that. So for my distance formula, I want to find the distance from B to C. So I'm going to do x2 minus x1 squared. Let me write these in here. B is at 6, 4, and C is at -6, -1. So we go 6, -6, 6 minus -6, and then we square it, plus 4 minus -1. And we square it. So that makes 12 squared plus 5 squared. That is 144 plus 25. You can check me in your calculator as we go along. That makes the square root of 169. And if you type that into your calculator, you will get 13. So the side right here, the longest side is 13. That's also called the hypotenuse. So we add that into our perimeter and we get an actual number. 25 plus 5, we get 30 units. Area is a little bit easier because we don't have any missing sides anymore. Area is base times height divided by 2, but there's 3 numbers there, 12, 5, and 13. Look for the right angle so you can know which ones make the base and the height. The right angle is right here. So the 2 numbers connected by that right angle make the base and the height. 5 times 12. It doesn't matter which order you multiply in. 12 times 5 divided by 2. You could reduce there if you want to, or we can just say that it's 60 divided by 2, which equals 30. And this time we have to say units squared because it's area. Okay, so just remember how distance formula works and make sure you put the right numbers in the right places using the minus signs correctly. Go ahead and try number 5 and number 6 on your own. And when you are done, come back and see if your answers were right. So number 5, if you made your graph, it looks like this. And this graph would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And your answers should have been 24 and 24 units squared. For this one, here's your graph. And here are your answers. Should have been about 26.18 units and 25 square units. 26.2, then that's okay as well. So when you're trying to find the perimeter of a pentagon, it's the same thing as what we just did with the triangles. You find whatever sides you can, you use the distance formula on whatever sides you can't count easily, and you just add them all together. So this is 1, 2, 3. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this one is 1, 2, 3. But this one we can't count because it's at a diagonal. So you can do the distance formula for that one. That one will be 5 minus 1 squared plus 0 minus negative 3. And then of course it's squared. That's the square root of 4 squared plus, it comes out to be 3 when you have 0 minus a negative. That's the square root of 16 plus 9. That's the square root of 25, which equals 5. So this length is 5. Now if you look at it and if you try calculating this one, so these two are the same, 5 and 5. So the perimeter is 3 plus 8 plus 3 plus 5 plus 5. So to work that out, instead of trying to do it in our head, let's just go ahead and do 3 plus 8 plus 3 plus 5 plus 5. And we get 24. Now we don't know if it's meters or feet or whatever, so we say units, 24 units. Alright, so looking at this one, let's do it together. You write with me, and if it's going too fast, just hit pause and come back to it when you're ready for it. There are 5 sides. 3 of them are pretty easy to just do it by counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be 5. And then this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for that one, and this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're only being asked to find the perimeter. Area will come later. But for the perimeter, we already know that we have 5 plus 6 plus 5. And we're going to have to add in these two. Now, again, this side happens to be congruent to this side. Okay, so let's put the coordinates here so we can use the distance formula correctly. N is at -5, 1. J is at -2, 5, and K is at 1, 1. So let's find this one first. From N to J, NJ. That's the length of segment NJ. So we subtract the x's first, -2 minus -5. And we square it, that becomes plus a positive. Plus, now do the y's, 5 minus 1. And we square that. We have the square root of -2 plus 5 is 3 squared, plus 5 minus 1 is 4, 4 squared. That's 9 plus 16, which equals 25, the square root of, which equals 5. So this side right here is 5. Now the other side, I can tell it matches, but I'll prove it to you by writing it out right here. Segment JK. From here to here, we have to do x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So I'm going to do -2 minus 1. Those are my x's. And I square it. Plus 5 minus 1. And I square it. And that's going to equal, again, inside here we have -3 this time, but still when you square -3, you'll get +9. And here it's 5 minus 1 is 4 squared. So we have the square root of 9 plus 16, which is still going to equal the square root of 25, which is going to equal 5. So they both come out the same. That's not always going to be the case, but sometimes you can tell when it's isosceles. Okay, so those are all 5 sides that I need to add together. I already have 5 plus 6 plus 5, so I need to add in plus 5 and plus 5 also. So my total perimeter is 5 and 5 and 5 and 5 is 20. 20 plus 6 is 26 units. You can check my work with your calculator. Got 26 units. Alright, so there's a couple for you to try on your own here. And the challenge is to be able to figure out the distance from here to here using the distance formula and the distance from here to here using the formula. So take a couple minutes on your own, hit pause, and come back when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so for number 7, the correct answer was about 29.3 units. When the square root doesn't come out perfectly, you round it to the nearest tenth and then you add all the pieces together. If you have questions on that one, I'll go over it with you at your tables tomorrow. And the number 8 came to 34 units. You had to use the distance formula from here to here and from here to here. If you have any questions on those, I'll come around your tables and help you with that tomorrow. And the last thing you have to be able to do is just these circles again. Last time we found circumference, this time it's area. And it's just plugging in numbers. The area, this one you don't have on your notes, just watch it. The area is pi times radius, and this one is the one that has it squared. Area is always squared. So that's how you know that formula. And it says to leave it in terms of pi, so that means we're not going to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to keep pi times my radius squared, but I need to know what my radius is. 16 is all the way across, so halfway across is 8. So I have pi times 8 squared. Always do your exponents first. X squared is 64. Sorry, 8 squared is 64. And then you multiply that by the pi sign, and you're done. Except since it's area, we have to label it as meters squared. If they ask you to round it to nearest tenth, you would use the calculator and you would use the pi button, but they didn't ask us to. They asked us to keep it in terms of pi. So let's try this one together. The diameter of a circle is 14. What is the area of the circle? The circle requires radius. The area requires radius. Pi times radius squared. So if 14 is the diameter, then the radius is half of that, or 7. So it's times 7 squared. 7 squared is 49. 49 times pi is our answer. And I have to go and look what unit it was. It said feet. Since it's area, I'm going to have to say feet squared. And lastly, what is the area of the circle using approximation of pi? So I take my 49 pi, and I use something that I already know, that pi can be written as 22 over 7. So I'm going to plug that in, 49 times 22 over 7. And the reason I'm using that is because I noticed that 49 and 7 could reduce. So I canceled those. I get 7 on top and 1 on bottom. And I end up with 7 times 22 right here. 7 times 22, and I get about 154 for my answer. And then again, since it was area, we do go ahead and make it feet squared. Equals 154 feet squared. All right, now this question says, why would we use that function? I used pi because the 22 over 7 because I realized that the 7s could cancel with the 49. And it doesn't have to give me any decimals as my result. All right, so for these two, you try them, and you're trying to find area. So do area equals pi r squared. And make sure that you find the radius first. This one, the radius is 20, so plug that in. And this one, they want you to leave it in terms of pi. They don't want you to have to plug in any values for pi. Just leave it as part of your answer. But this is 3/4 going all the way across. We need to know the radius. The diameter is 3/4, but the radius is always half of the diameter. So it would be 3/4 times half. That's how you take half of something. So if we do that, across the top you have 3 times 1 is 3. Across the bottom is 4 times 2 is 8. So the radius you want to use right here is actually 3 over 8. Go ahead and try those and come back. After you hit pause, come back and then check your answers. Okay, so the correct answer for number 9 should have been 400 times pi meters squared. And for number 10, the answer should have been 9 over 64, or I usually write it this way, 9 pi over 64 inches squared.